Looking at the spinal cord, it is enclosed in the vertebral column and it starts at the foramen magnum. The vertebral column extends down to about the L1 or L2 vertebra. So we can see this the how far in the vertebral column does our spinal cord extend, about L1 or L2. The spinal cord is protected by bone, epidural fat, meninges, and cerebral spinal fluid. The spinal dura mater is only one layer thick and it does not attach to the vertebra. Then there's an epidural space, which is this cushion of fat and a network of veins in the space between the vertebra and the spinal dura mater. And the CSF will fill in the subarachnoid space between the arachnoid and pia mater, essentially providing some buffering and some cushioning to the spinal cord. The dural and the arachnoid membranes will all extend all the way down to the sacrum beyond the end of the cord, and the cord ends at L1 or L2. And so if we list the layers of protection of the spinal cord from outermost to innermost, it's vertebral column, meninges, and then CSF. The spinal cord terminates in this cone-shaped structure, which is called the cona medullaris. The filum terminale will extend all the way down to the coccyx, which is just a fibrous extension of the conus, and it's covered with pia mater, and it anchors the spinal cord. And cauda equina is kind of this horse-like structure, horse hair tail. It's a collection of nerve roots at the lower end, the inferior end of the vertebral canal. The spinal cord has several key attachment points. The denticulate ligaments are extensions of the pia that secure the cord to the dura mater. Um, I don't know if I have a good picture of our denticulate ligaments here. I don't have a great one. And then there's also cervical and lumbar enlargements. These are areas where nerves that serve the upper and lower limbs arise from the spinal cord, kind of bulges. Peripheral nervous system nerves do arise from the spinal cord. So our spinal nerves are part of the peripheral nervous system because they've come out of the spinal cord and they attach to the spinal cord by 31 paired roots. Each spinal cord segment is designated by paired spinal nerves that arise from it. And there are cervical and lumbosacral enlargements. There's nerves here that serve the upper and lower limbs. So why are there eight pairs of cervical nerves and cervical vertebra? They're labeled C1 through C8, and that is because the first cervical nerve, the suboccipital nerve, exits above this first cervical vertebra here, which is here, right? So this nerve comes off above. That's between the skull and the first vertebra. That innervates muscles in the suboccipital triangle, which is right at the base of our skull. And then the remaining cervical nerves, 2 through 8, exit below their respective cervical vertebra. And then they innervate different muscles from there. There are two lengthwise grooves that run the length of the cord and partially divide it into right and left halves. There's the ventral or the anterior median fissure. This would be located here, right? Anterior, so this fissure here. And then there's the dorsal or posterior median sulcus. Their gray matter is located in the core, and the white matter is external outside. And the central canal is a hole that runs in the length of the cord, and it's filled with cerebral spinal fluid. The gray matter, the H of the cord, resembles a butterfly. And there's three kind of areas of gray matter that are found on either side of the center, and they're mirror images of each other. We have our dorsal horns. So this would be the dorsal region, dorsal horns. These include interneurons that receive somatic and visceral sensory input coming in. There are ventral horns on either side. These contain interneurons as well as our somatic motor neurons. These would be the starting point for our lower motor neuron that then is going to innervate our muscles. And then there are lateral horns. These are located only in the thoracic and the superior lumbar regions, and this is where our sympathetic neurons are located. Our spinal roots extend off. So we have this gray commissure. This is the bridge of gray matter that connects both gray matter sides on kind of to right to the left. And inside of it is our central canal. And then we have these roots, right? So we have a ventral root. This ventral root is a bundle of motor neuron axons that exited off the spinal cord at that level. We also have dorsal roots. Our dorsal roots are also this bundle of motor neuron axons that are well, they're sensory neuron axons. They're putting sensory input into the cord. And then a unique part to the dorsal aspect is we have this dorsal root ganglia or spinal ganglia, and this is where our cell bodies of our bilateral sensory neurons are located. And so we can see the cell bodies are all in these dorsal spinal root ganglia. The receptors for these sensory neurons are all located like at the hand or the skin, the body part that's getting sensation from. And then the other part of the axon is going to feed directly into the spinal cord, into that dorsal horn. And our spinal nerves are formed by fusing our dorsal and our ventral roots. We can further divide our gray matter by function. So the front component here, this ventral aspect, ventral horn, is where our somatic motor neurons are located. We then will see this kind of visceral motor neurons, our visceral autonomic neurons are located also in that ventral horn, just kind of more, a little bit more internal or even lateral. Our visceral autonomic or our visceral sensory neurons are located in that dorsal horn. And then our inner neurons that receive input from our somatic sensory neurons are located also in that dorsal horn. Our spinal cord white matter includes both myelinated and non-myelinated nerve fibers that allow for communication between parts of the spinal cord and the brain. They run in three different directions: ascending, which is moving information up to the brain. This is sensory information. Descending, which is moving information down from the brain to the cord or below the cord. This is motor information. And transverse, this is how we communicate from one side to the other, and we call these commissural fibers. Some of our white matter columns are named. So we have white columns or funiculi on each side. We have a dorsal posterior, a lateral, and a ventral anterior kind of funiculi. Each tract is composed of axons that have similar destinations and functions. We can see this dorsal white column, which includes the fasciculus, gracilis, and cunatus. We have a spinocerebellar tract, which has a dorsal and a ventral. And we have a spinothalamic tract, which has a lateral and a ventral. These are all moving upward. These are descending tracts moving downward, our corticospinal or our pyramidal tracts. We have a lateral as well as a ventral. Rubospinal, reticulospinal, vestibulospinal, and tectospinal, less important that you know, but they are all descending tracts as well.